Hello, and thank you for joining our TopCon Solutions Store webcast today. Today we're going to be talking about Bluebeam eXtreme and Revu, and we are excited to have David Campbell back to walk us through and answer that question, what's so extreme about Revu eXtreme? So before we get started, my name is Wendy Finch, and I'm the Director of Marketing here at TopCon Solutions. And I just want to go through a couple of housekeeping items before I turn things over to David. And that is, we will be offering a Q&A at the end. And so throughout the broadcast, if you want to type in your questions in the menu box there under questions, we will address them live as we have time. We're trying to allow at least 15 minutes for that Q&A session, so feel free to type those questions in. The broadcast is being recorded, and so it will be made available on our website and our YouTube page within probably by end of day or definitely by end of day Monday. So if you have a colleague that you'd like to share this information with, or there's just something you want to go back and review, that will be made available to you. I think that just about covers everything. TopCon Solutions Store is a Bluebeam Platinum partner, and so we offer not only the product, but we fully support it, and we have certified technicians and instructors within our organization. And so David happens to be one of those elite folks that has all the certifications. He does all the Bluebeam. So we're going to go ahead and turn things over to him, and let's get the show started. David, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Wendy. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Woo woo. So I wanted to start off with a little bit about us, TopCon Solutions, and who we are. As Wendy said, we are a platinum level Bluebeam reseller, and we are staffed with the Bluebeam certified consultants, Bluebeam certified instructors, and a full tech support team for any issues that you are experiencing with Bluebeam itself, Revu itself. We do have 13 different locations spread out across the United States, and we are growing. Yeah, that's a little bit about us as TopCon Solutions. Now, my name again is David Campbell, and as Wendy said, I am a Bluebeam certified instructor. I am a Bluebeam certified consultant as well. I do specialize in implementation and training of Bluebeam Revu, as well as consulting and tech support. So kind of getting into it, we're going to cover some of the Revu features, but I also want to talk about, again, like what the big points are of having Bluebeam Revu eXtreme. So in our agenda today, we're going to go over the OCR, which is the optical character recognition, batch tools such as link, compare, overlay, and then slip sheeting, batch sign and seal, and PDF form creation. So these are some of the things that you will need in terms of, let me switch over here and we go right here. So those are some things that you're going to need in terms of, or going to get with the eXtreme version. Now, if I'm honest, when you get into Bluebeam Revu, when you get into the interface itself, you're going to see that no matter what version you have, the functionality is going to be a lot of the same. With the standard version, you're going to have everything here. You're going to have your toolbars. You're going to have all of your different panels. The main thing you're going to miss is the batch tools here. So the batch tools, and under document, you will not see the OCR function. That is that optical character recognition. So I'll run through that one. So with standard, you're still going to get all of these awesome tools. You're going to get the use of Studio, and you're going to get the use of a singular type of compare and overlay of pages. With the CAD version, that is when you're moving up into your drafting with AutoCAD, you're modeling with Revit, Civil 3D, things like that, and you want to be able to push information into Bluebeam. So with that version, you're going to see things like 3D PDFs, those are capable of being printed from Revit into Bluebeam. You're going to pull all that metadata from that PDF, be able to kind of navigate through it, select on items, and go through a full 3D model tree to have it list out all of the different elements that were modeled into your, well, 3D PDF. Now, I guess big talking points there would be when you print from something like AutoCAD into Bluebeam Revu, you can choose to take your layers. So we do have that layer functionality here, and those will populate with all of your AutoCAD layers if you want them to come over. You'll be able to pull in the line styles, things like that. Coming over from Revit, we have our rooms. We can take area measurements and subtract openings. We can take over our bookmarks. All of our documents can be hyperlinked together automatically. Different things like that with that CAD version. Now with the eXtreme is it. That is where we're going to see the batch tools here. And then once I start going through these, one more thing I want to notate is with the eXtreme version, that's what you're going to need. So you need the eXtreme version if you want to integrate Bluebeam Revu with any other outside programs such as SmartGov, like document management platforms that are online, or even BIM 360, things like that. You would go ahead and utilize the Studio Prime integrations, which again, you will need the eXtreme version to do that. All right, so let's go ahead and get right into it. Under Document and OCR. So OCR is the optical character recognition. And what this is going to do is essentially run over any rasterized drawings, any scanned in documents, things like that. And it'll help try to translate those graphics into vector, something that Bluebeam Revu can interpret, understand. We can search through it. You know how normally we can do our snaps. So here, actually, let me go ahead and demo that one real quick. I'll go on to page 4 here. I go Tools, Markup, and if I go with my call out, we'll notice that it's going to snap right to my PDF content itself, right? So in a rasterized document, typically you're not going to be able to do that. You're also not going to really be able to do your bookmarks because the page regions just won't pull data that well. If you're trying to hyperlink this document together, you'll notice that some of the text doesn't translate that well. That OCR here is really going to help. So you know what? Let me actually open one of these up. And I'm going to show you guys what we can do with this. I'll grab this raster sample here. So typically we have a rasterized document. And when I go to, let's say, grab some text, now this one of course is going to be clean. We're normally looking at a scan that is a lot older than this, and it might be dirtier. So it would be hard to go ahead and run our auto mark or batch link, anything like that, from this. So you see it's not recognizing this text here. Now normally in our other documents, in a vectorized document, you're going to see that as soon as I go around the text with my hyperlink, it's going to recognize that text. Okay, so that's awesome if I have any notes. Where were you? Such as refer to this spec section here. I can go ahead and hyperlink this just by highlighting it. Now, so what I want to do here is go ahead, run up to Document, OCR, and then I'm going to tell it what type of drawing this is. Whether it is a drawing, it's going to be tables and forms, or it's text documents. So I'm going to go with CAD drawings here. I'm going to leave it with the correct skew, detect orientation. An interesting note here for page chunk size and max vector size. Page chunk is really how many pages that you want to go ahead and vectorize at one time. Okay, and we're doing the max vector size of 50 points right now. Just establishing that we're going to go ahead and do, let's say, one at a time, and it's going to run through and vectorize the document for us. So when I say OK, it's going to take a minute, and it'll go ahead and run through this document. Now, another note here is that I'm just doing kind of one document, and I'll be able to come in here, grab my links, and you see how now it's recognizing the text within this document. So if I wanted to hyperlink this, I started it at the OU there. You can grab that T. So now if I want to hyperlink that text, here I can go ahead and actually have it open that with the mechanical equipment layout here, or search through the document, things like that. If I wanted to hyperlink to my details, anything like that. Very nice feature. Now under batch is where you're going to find the batch OCR. So the regular OCR, I can do one document and I can bring a bunch of them in at one time. Batch is going to allow me to literally just load in a bunch of them and then go ahead and run an OCR at one point in time. So if I have an entire set, now I will go ahead and warn you, if you're doing, let's say 250 or you're doing 500 sheets in here, it's going to be better to break this down a little bit in terms of how many pages you are running an OCR on at one time. I would typically do about 100 to 150 and then go ahead, run one OCR section and then go ahead, next one do, pages 150 to 250 or what have you. Just so you're literally, it doesn't take as long in that sense. And it makes sure that every document is done correctly. So that's a good pro tip there. So also under these batch tools, that's where we're going to see link. So we have a batch link. Now, if I go to construction set A here, and I go back, we're going to see I do not have any links. Now, normally with the standard version, you would have to go through and manually hyperlink any of these together. It can be a very time-consuming process if you're just getting these PDFs and they aren't hyperlinked already. Very time-consuming. It's where we can go ahead and say batch, link, and new. This is when I can go ahead, I'm going to get rid of that raster sample there, but I'm going to add the open files that I want to go ahead and link together. This is nice if you have a bunch of documents that you want to go ahead and link together as well, whether it's going to be your spec sheets or it's going to be different details, things like that, that you want to go ahead and have it linked together even though they're different documents. So if I hit next here, I'm going to go ahead and use a page region to tell it where I want to look. Now I'm going to go ahead and find one of my floor plans here, and I'm going to grab my sheet number, and then I'm going to say OK. From there, now it is a good idea to check your settings here in terms of you can set a filter to go ahead and kind of pull the right data you're looking for, whether you are seeing a 1.01 or a 0.001 or anything like that. If you're seeing dashes, spaces, what we can do is set up a filter to pull, let's say first from start. So I'm only going to pull the G0 and I'm going to go from that period. So I go first from the start until it recognizes that period. So then it stops. So this is how I can get it to pull just those numbers as well. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that filter off, and I'm going to have it generate. When it generates, what it's going to do is search through this whole document to find any text or any options that really look like what we searched for with that page region. Now, here for my link options, this is important because what you're going to notice if you don't get into these link options and you don't choose the include appearance properties, your hyperlinks will all be invisible. So that's a big talking point there. Include appearance properties, and I like using the fill with the yellow color. That's just my preference. Okay, now I also like using relative paths. This is a good note as well because if you use absolute paths and you move that document at all, your link is going to break. Okay, and then whole words only, case sensitive, things like that. Now, before I hit run, I do want to go ahead and note this, save config. So you can save this link configuration to look for, well, essentially it's just going to save the search data, the search terms. And when you pull it back in, it knows what to look for. So it's saving you a little bit of time here and there to be able to go ahead and link these documents together. So you'd hit Save Configuration and go ahead and import that in. Actually, when you go to Batch and then Link, you would saw New and Open. We would choose Open. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Run. You're going to see and this is a 48-page document, so not too big, 282 hyperlinks. So when I go back to my sheet title, here we go. My entire sheet index is now hyperlinked. So if I go into my floor plans here, you're going to notice all of my details are now hyperlinked. I can click through them and go ahead and navigate to any of the details as I need to. So that is the batch link. It saves us a lot of time. I do want to say that you can also at any point after you batch link, go through and edit those hyperlinks. So if I know that I really want to go to detail number 4 on sheet A7.07, this is where I would go ahead and, click on this one and go to edit action. And then I could have it, let's say, snapshot view. And then if I go to sheet 7.07, let's skip past one, there we go. I'd look for detail number 4, which is here, and then draw my view around it and say okay. Now if I go back and I find, here it is, I click, it takes me right to that detail. So the batch link is nice for just getting it all, excuse me, all linked together, but you can go ahead at any point in time, edit those links, and then kind of repath it or put it into a snapshot view as you need to. All right. So moving on from that one, I'm going to go into the compare and overlay. So with the compare and overlay tools, you're going to see we have that not only in document, so we have document compare, document overlay. Here's where we have our batch. So I'm going to go through the regular one first. And I'm going to go ahead and see if I can't open up. Yep, there we go. And my revision. Don't save. So a lot of times you'll notice that we can split screen inside a Bluebeam Revu. And if I do have this synchronized, I can go ahead and move around the documents to kind of see what changed in between them, which is great, but it doesn't really tell me exactly what happened. And sometimes we can miss revision clouds. We all know that happens. Some of those can be left off of the sheet. I believe there is actually one right over here. Yes, so we put in a new one here, but there was a new door added without that revision cloud. And sometimes that's kind of hard to notice. So with that, we go document and compare or overlay. So I'm going to run overlay first. Overlay pages is literally going to assign you a colored layer for each one of your sheets. And what it'll do is just like a basic old school light table, it'll lay your sheets right on top of each other, and we'll see exactly what changed based off of that color alignment. Now, it will automatically line these up for us, but if you do have like different size documents, anything like that, you can use a manual alignment where you pick 3 points, that is here, and then it'll go ahead and align the document from there. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And as I scroll in, now we're going to see exactly what changed between the revision and the original. All right, so that is a very nice tool. That's overlay, and we're doing like a one-to-one there. So if I come back to documents and I find compare, that's my original, here's my revision. Now, I do like to notice here on the compare documents under the advanced tab here, Down towards the bottom, this is where you can set the properties for the revision cloud, because what document comparison is going to do is actually go through and cloud all of the differences that it finds on the sheets. Here's where you can change those properties of the markups, the term, revision for the subject. If you do want that, usually it's a difference, I think is what it normally calls them by default. And you can change that here. You can adjust the opacity, the width. If you want it to be locked so no one can kind of move it, you can go through and uncheck that, of course, and adjust it from there. And then where do you want it to apply to, whether it is a new copy of document A, new copy of document B, so on your original or your revision, if you want to go ahead and apply it to both, things like that. I'm going to say okay. Now again, on this one, with document comparison, you can manually align it as well with 3 pick points, or if you know that you're just looking at a certain area, if you have a certain portion of the building that was done and that's the only part of it you want to run a comparison on, that's where you can go ahead and use select window and draw that around, and it's only going to run it in that area. So I hit OK. And here we're going to see it notate every change that was made. Now you will notice some things like this. So the lines changed here, there's a gap, it noted that. So not a big deal, I can go ahead and get rid of that. All right. So the document comparison and overlay here under the document tab, this is a one-to-one, and I'm saying one document to one document. It doesn't have to be one sheet to one sheet. Now, if you're trying to, let's say, bring in multiple revisions for an entire sheet set, you guys have your whole plan set, and it's 100 pages, 200 pages, and let's say you have 15, 20 revisions, and that's it. The batch compare and batch overlay is how you're going to want to approach this. With batch overlay and batch compare, if I start with overlay first, I can do, let's say, I'm going to open up, I'm going to remove those. And let's go with files. I'm going to bring in the construction set B. So this is my 48-page sheet set here. And what I'm going to do under my revised files is just, I keep grabbing those. There we go. More coffee on this Friday is what is needed apparently. But if I go here and I'm going to find my batch, and let's go with overlay, and I'll bring in my revisions. Here's where I can go just grab a bunch of my revisions at one time and say go. Now, the great thing about this is it's going to match it all for me. It's going to bring all of these documents together for me based on a page region. So what I'm going to do, or if you have your page labels already done, if you did the auto mark, you can do a manual correlation if you can't pull any of that data from one to another, or your file name page index itself. So I'm going to utilize that page region, and I'm going to go into here, just as I did last time, and draw a rectangle right around that sheet number. And I say okay. When I say match pages, it's going to look in that spot on both documents, on all of the documents, and match them together in that sense. So here, it knows exactly where these go, and I say okay. So for the batch, what you'll notice is that it doesn't give you the documents just like it did when I ran the document compare, document overlay. It just brought up another document for me to look at. This is going to give me a detailed report, whether I want to print it into CSV or PDF. And then I can choose, do I want to create hyperlinks based off of that? Do I want to stamp it with the date and time, letting them know, hey, this is when the revision was brought in, things like that. I say okay. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and leave open file after creation there. And here's my nice little batch summary. So I can see the revised pages here. It was overlaid with the construction set B. And here's where I can go ahead and click to see exactly what changed between the two. Quite a few changes there. Don't know what they did. So we can see a list of any unmatched pages as well here, and again, kind of go through and see what was changed. We can mark up from there, assign responsibility, things like that. And that is with the overlay. The document comparison is much of the same. And what you're going to see, there we go, compare documents. So now, again, we're going to see that same kind of functionality with compare. Now it's going to cloud the differences, of course, but we can pull in, let's say, multiple sheets and then bring in the revisions and go ahead and compare them at one time. Fantastic time saver here as well. All right, so what do we do when we have, let's say, construction set B here, and we have some revisions that actually need to be brought into this document, right? Typically, the way that we would do this with the standard version is to come into our thumbnails tab or the document tab here, and you're going to insert or replace pages, right? So if I know that a 1.1.1 there has been revised, I can go ahead and hit replace pages and then say, okay, here's my revision. Now, the problem with this is it completely replaced everything that I had with that document, right? And if I have markups on it, my markups don't come through. Now I can, there is a workaround. I can go ahead into my markups list. You can go ahead and export them and bring them back in and essentially copy and paste it on there. So that's a possibility. But you're still losing a lot of data from kicking that sheet out. So I don't like that. A lot of times what I prefer to do is use the batch and then slip sheet. So slip sheeting is going to allow us to bring in multiple revisions at one time and literally slip sheet them, slip them right into our document set. So I'll go add, and let's say I'll go with open files and get rid of the first 2 pages there. And then I'm going to go find my revised files. I keep hitting open, don't I? I'm going to go to files this time. And let's say I'm going to go with, yeah, I'll go with compare. No, you know what? We had more on overlay. So I'm going to grab U2. Say okay. And nah, I'm going to remove these out and grab the other ones I had there. Okay, and grab you. That way I have a few more to choose from. So now again, I'm going to have to do the matching of them to go ahead and bring them in. And I'm going to go ahead and select rut row. There we go. It's taking a second to render for me. Actually, speaking of that, if anybody is experiencing some of these rendering issues, if you're experiencing any speed issues, things like that with Bluebeam Revu, a lot of times, you saw I just closed out of the document there and brought it back up. That'll get it to refresh. But a lot of times in your review preferences here, under the advanced tools, this is where you can adjust it to go either off of your the rendering engine, to go off of your hardware if you have a pretty strong computer, the software, or run off of a legacy GDI. And then the rendering mode itself, I like using wait for completion, just because I feel like it renders a little bit better and it's not rendering as much. So you can use that iterative draw or the wait for completion. I would definitely go ahead and check those if you're, again, running into any of those speed or rendering issues. So let me get back to it. I'm going to go with batch and slip sheet. Get rid of those 2 again. There we go. I'm going to go back up here. There we go. 4, got it. I'm going to go ahead and choose my page region again, right off of my document there, say okay. And now again, you can go ahead and save these if you want to, okay, to load it back in at any point in time. And I'll say match pages. Great thing about this, here we go. What do you want to do with these documents? You want to insert these revised pages before your current pages, or replace them with the revised pages. So it's your choice. You can choose what you want to do. Now, this right here, copy markups from current pages to revised pages. This is how we can literally take the data. Maybe we had a review process done on the last one where we had a lot of markups, some RFIs, submittals, what have you. Awesome information placed on that PDF that we do not want to lose. This is where when we slip sheet, it's literally going to copy and paste it over for us. And then if you want to go ahead and use a flatten or unflatten, you can have it unflatten all the markups and then flatten them again. Now this one too is pretty big. I like having this because it stamps the current pages with superseded. So what that means is it's going to put a big red X through there and stamp it with superseded. That way anybody going through this document knows that is not the most up-to-date document. So when I say okay here, it's going to run through, and I'm going to go ahead and jump in my thumbnails tab here once it's done. But it'll also give us a nice, well, detailed report. Again, we can go with PDF or CSV, so it'll kick us out into Excel there. When I say okay, here we go. It's going to tell that it just inserted this revision into this page here, and it's going to tell us where. So that's nice. If I come back into construction set B, go into my thumbnails, here we go. So there's the superseded. There's my most recent document. Here's superseded. Again, most recent document. So I really like that slip sheeting functionality. I mean, it saves a lot of time, especially when you're trying to make sure everyone in the field or everyone in general has the most up-to-date documentation. All right. So let me close out of these two here because I'm pretty much done with those. Also, under the batch, this is where you're going to see your batch flatten markups, reduce file size. A lot of this is awesome. Sign and seal. So I've been getting a lot of questions about this lately, about batch signing and sealing a document. This document, when you go to batch sign and seal it, you're literally going to say nobody else can make any changes to this document. So let's say I want to use construction set B. There it is. Oh, and it doesn't want to because I got to save it. So I'll just do a file, save as, place this right on my desktop. Okay. Now if I go with a sign and seal, I hit next. And what it's going to do is ask, what type of signature do I want to use? So this is a good talking point as well for any of you that do not know. If I use a digital signature, no one else is going to be able to make changes on this document whatsoever. Just, they cannot. It is signed, it's locked, it's done. If I use a document certification, notice how I get this little box right down here under permitted changes to go ahead and highlight here. I can allow changes to be made on this document. So no changes, fill in the forms and digital signatures, or if you want them to place markups, fill in the forms and use a digital signature. A lot of times when you're going through a multiple review process, a certification is going to work better than a signature. But you'll also notice once you certify a drawing, you're not really going to be able to certify it again. So in that sense, stamps are great. So after we go to batch, sign, and seal this document, you'll see we get to place it right on here and choose what kind of stamp you want to use, whether it is an approval stamp, you're going to use a revision, and not for construction, what have you. And then I can go ahead and say, okay. Now, notice I didn't log in, so it's not going to allow me to put my stuff in. So I'll go ahead, log in. and voila. It's going to run through, fully put my stamp. Now I could have dragged that stamp and placed it wherever I wanted on this document. That's also nice, rather than the right click and apply stamp, or if you go to apply to all pages, or even if you're in here and you go to, well, I need to go ahead and undo this. I can't, can I? All right, let's go back up. Like I said, once you've done it, it's done. So here we go. I'll go ahead and find this, and I'll actually clear that certificate out so I can get to do some other things with it here. But okay, batch, sign, and seal. There we go. That way is almost a better way than trying to apply your stamp, because you're going to notice when you go to apply your stamp, you literally choose an anchor point in the document, but then that's it, and that's where it places it. I like using the batch, sign, and seal if you're going to go ahead and sign it, because as I said earlier, you can kind of drag that stamp around and place it where you want, and you know that it's going to place there every time on every document. All right. Now, another note on here is that for form creation, I was trying to figure out exactly how to word this, but for form creation, you're going to need the eXtreme version. So if I want to generate any RFIs of my own, submittals, if I go into editing my specs, or if I want to really be able to give a fillable digital form, right, I will need the eXtreme version. So if I go to tools and form, so that's where you're going to find it here, tools and form, we do have automatically create form fields. Awesome function for reading through any of these. Now there it goes. Okay, so it's brought me a signature block, some nice text boxes, things like that. One of the big reasons I like using this automatically create form fields is because you're going to notice that if you go into the forms tab here, it actually pulled the data in terms of what is in this PDF itself and put it along to, or associated it with the subject of the form field itself. So if I go into the properties here, you're going to notice the name of that is today's date. So I do like that. Now, otherwise, you are able to go through file, let's go new PDF from template, let's go with the regular RFI. You are able to go ahead and just create your own as well. So if I wanted a text box, I can go ahead and put a text box here, just drag it out. If I wanted, instead of a text box, I could go with a drop down. And then I have a list of individuals. Now, another pro tip here, if I'm going through making a form, what I'm going to do is I'm going to split up my properties panel on one side and my form panel on the other. I'm doing this because if you do not have the forms tab up, you will not be able to select the actual form field. You have to open up the forms tab, choose the form field that you want to go ahead and edit, and then get into the properties. So here's where I can make it required, anything like that. The big note here for the drop down is this is where I actually add my items. So here's where I can go ahead and choose between the John Smith or David Campbell. Okay, also with that, you can format any of your form fields. We can format it with a number, percentage, date, time, or if you have a custom formatting you want to go ahead and put in there. If you have any scripting, any actions that you want to go ahead and do, when you move your mouse up in the form field, move your mouse down. If you click anything like that, you can have it open up a document, hyperlink to somewhere else, or actually build calculation fields within your forms or documents themselves. So we can build nice calculation fields as well as validation fields, making sure that something is within a specific range. Okay. Now, also another note with that, if I can tie back to the form fields and then stamps, interactive stamps. If you guys want to use stamps that have those form fields that are fillable. You will need, of course, to have the Extreme version, but what you'll end up doing is pulling some JavaScript into the form field and connecting it with the stamp itself. So when I go to use something like the submittal status stamp here, I say okay, you're going to see a JavaScript window populate here. It's going to ask me to go ahead and choose or fill in this information. So I could say project 1, it's been approved, it was checked by me, submittal number, and the spec number. I say okay, and there's my stamp. Okay, so you will need the Extreme version to go ahead and make anything like this, or these form fields here like the RFI. Another kind of note with that, and after this I got another good talking point, and then we'll go ahead and wrap it up with the questions. But once you have this form to where you need it, again, bring in any forms that you have, digitize them, then what you can do is go up to File here, and if you go to New PDF from Template, you find Save as Template. So you're going to leave all of your forms fillable. Anytime somebody needs to open that document and fill it in, they have a blank fillable one ready to go. It's a great workflow, especially for those of you who are really trying to get into the paperless workflow, really trying to push into any type of BIM that you can. This is going to be one of the first steps, is digitizing your forms. All right, so for the final thing, I did want to talk about the integrations. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go to the Bluebeam Studio Prime portal here. And when I log in, so what you're going to see inside of Studio Prime, of course, is great insights. We can manage all of our users that we have going through our sessions and projects in Studio. But tying back to that Extreme version, this is where you're going to see your integrations. Whether you have integrations built with BIM 360, if you have integrations built with PlanGrid, anything like that, or any other document management online platforms, you will need that Extreme version to go ahead and tie those together. So that is, in a nutshell, all of the reasons why Bluebeam Revu is, at least the Extreme version, is so extreme. Do we have any questions? If you guys can go ahead and if you have any questions, put them right down in the chat, and then I'll go ahead and answer anything that I can.
Okay, so we do have a few questions, David.
All right.
So here we go. So Andrew asks, let's see, I want to go to the top first. Very often when reading a plan, you will go back and forth between a drawing page and an S page with the detail. How do I quickly get back to the view I was in before I went to the detail?
That's a great question. For that, you will want to go ahead into your navigation pane. You'll see a previous view and a next view. So if you hit that previous view, it'll go ahead and take you back to that previous page. May have to hit it a couple times because it will also remember where you move around that document.
Okay, that was quick enough. Next question is from Dean, and he says, I know it's not the focus of this presentation, but can you share info about whether Bluebeam has functionality for performing as a tool for creating inspector daily reports for inspection of construction activities?
Oh, definitely. Yes. Yes. you're going to see, one, we have the punch profile, which is of course going to be able to allow you to track any issues that you're seeing on the site itself in terms of work. Now, with a daily report, there's a couple different ways I would advise doing this. Your biggest thing is going to be through Studio. You're going to use either Studio projects or Studio sessions, which if you're having a filled out daily report, a fillable, I would actually host it in a project. And I have an example of that one here. And essentially what I have is I'll have a either Excel spreadsheet that I can have anyone fill out. Now the problem with, I'm going to tell you the problem with going into Excel and pushing it back to Bluebeam is the fact that anyone can get in and open this Excel spreadsheet. It is a check-in, check-out kind of workflow, so only one person can open it at a time. But it would need to be used by or usable by pretty much anyone, okay? Because you cannot save, you can't do a save as back into Bluebeam Studio projects from Excel. You can hit save and it'll update the document, but you can't do a save as to essentially separate it by person if it's an Excel spreadsheet, unless you have multiple tabs under there, which then if you have multiple worksheets, they would be able to go ahead and update that document and then do it every single day. Or you can do a fillable PDF and then actually have anyone open it here. So I'll show you this one too. And let me close some of this down because this is getting kind of hard to see here. Move this down a little bit. There we go. So if I have a fillable, when I check this document out, and this is a PDF, they can go ahead and fill this document out all the way and then do File, Save As, and actually put it right back into the project itself under the daily report file. You can have subfolders under there. If you have individuals, you can have them place their daily reports right into a subfolder, anything like that. And then any markups that are done on any document that's hosted within these projects are all tracked. So if you're doing issues, walkthroughs, things like that, all of those comments would be tracked on a document that you could essentially attach to these documents as well.
Great. One more question from Andrew. Pushing out signed and sealed documents to the world is problematic for vendors trying to use Bluebeam estimating tools.
Yes.
Even something as simple as getting a square footage is not possible with a sealed document.
Mm-hmm.
Consider this as you get ready to push documents. I'm not sure where the question is. Can you speak to that a little bit?
No, that's a very good point. So if you sign and seal, once you sign a document and send it out to anyone, it is completely locked. That person is not going to be able to do anything with that document. So it does make it hard for any vendors, any subs that you have working with you to do work off of that document unless they try to like print it to PDF, and essentially they're flattening it and trying to flatten that signature. So that is a very good note. Thank you for that. Because you guys will want to take a look at that for your workflow. Flattening the documents is a great way to share information across, but also allow the PDF to be usable. So that's flattening. But when you don't want anyone else making any changes to it, no matter what, you sign it. You can sign and seal.
Okay. Our next question from Christian is a big question. And so maybe we can do a high level, and if we need to, we can follow up with Christian directly. But the question is, what are the benefits of using Studio in Bluebeam?
Oh, there's so many benefits there. If you're using projects or sessions, sessions is going to be online real-time collaboration. And let me tell you this, it's free. It comes with any version of Bluebeam Revu, whether it's standard, CAD, or eXtreme. In a session, you can host up to 500 people. You can host up to, it's 100 documents of up to 100 megabytes a piece, but they're only 2D and 3D PDFs. I love it for any takeoff workflows where you have bigger teams that need to do their takeoff processes, your design review workflows where you're doing multiple reviews or you have multiple reviewers, anything like that. And even anyone needing to go out to the site and pull documents, they can actually just grab the Let me back out of this project here and actually go over to a session. They can actually take the documents offline and do a walkthrough. And let's see, we do this one. They can do a full walkthrough, do whatever they need with these documents offline. So I just say here, I want to work offline. Cool. I walk around, place all my comments. I can take pictures of the site, put them on the document itself. And then when I get back to some Wi-Fi, I just connect back to the internet, good to go. It's going to track all of the comments that were made, all of the activity that's been in the session itself. So it does give you a full printable report. And it, again, tracks all the comments that were placed on the document itself as well. On the flip side of that, Studio Projects is a document management kind of function, right? You're going to see, if I go back into the digital dashboards here, a nice full folder structure that you can actually go through, host any type of document, any document size. It does not matter, and you have no limit on the amount of participants you can have in a project. And again, any file size, any file type. You do see I will have some DWGs, I have PDFs. You can host pretty much whatever you need in this. And then what you do from here is you can actually go ahead, if I have a PDF, I can go ahead and send that over to a session as I need to. So the great thing I think about projects is that it's like my single source of truth, and everything would, as my project grows, everything lives in projects. And then as I need sessions, as I need reviews, things like that, I can actually send it over into a session. The projects are check in and check out, as I kind of showed earlier, enabling only one person to have that document at a time. So that's where that session comes into play. But as anybody, again, is going through a full project, as your documents are revised, anything like that, you're slip sheeting or inserting them into your sets here in projects, which are updating for everyone in your project to see. You would send out emailed invitations, and then you set up permissions, both in a project and a session. You have permissions that you can go ahead and establish, allowing users to get in, to download copies or to mark up on your documents, insert documents, things like that. With projects, you're going to see a bigger breakdown because we do have a folder structure. So you're going to see that we can actually go ahead and specify permissions by folder and subfolder, whether we want to hide it, read write, delete, things like that. And if I can finish this all up with one of the biggest benefits of using Studio is going to be that you don't need a paid license to get into a Studio session. So anybody that's kind of getting new into Bluebeam, any of those subs or contractors that haven't really wanted to take that plunge yet, you can invite them into a Studio session as long as you have a paid version. You create the session, send them an invite. As soon as they jump in, so they would download the free Bluebeam PDF viewer, and as soon as they jump into that session, all of their markup capabilities are turned on. They can place markups, change the statuses, things like that, see the entire document, and again, it is a 2D or 3D PDF. That 3D PDF workflow for something like this is very fantastic. And be able, again, to place comments, things like that, see the model, and then just get out whenever they need to, and it turns right back into a viewer. I would say it really enables collaboration.
Okay, great. So I think that wraps up our questions that we have submitted currently. So I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up the webinar here. I'll just remind everybody that on our website, topconsolutions.com, under our training tab at the top of the menu, we have a variety of classes that are available. That's what our public classes are listed, but any of these classes can be done anywhere. So we can come to you. So if you don't see a public class in your area, please reach out to us and we'll send David to you. But it'll give you an idea of the things that David is working with other customers and other clients on, and kind of a variety. Also, we can always customize if you're currently using Bluebeam and you want to get into some more advanced features and workflows. That's where David shines as well. So please visit our website. We'll do a follow-up email to everybody on this webinar, giving you the link to the recording, and then some information how to contact us for further information. So I think that wraps it up. David, any closing remarks?
No, thank you for joining us here on this wonderful Friday. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you for joining our webinar today. Keep in touch with us, and we are constantly adding new webinars, and we appreciate your participation. So thank you to everybody, and David, thank you very much, and have a great rest of your day.